Hello everyone and welcome to the 8.2 project channel. I am Renix and I am one of the maintainers of the project, and I will be making this video series about how to use GameMaker 8.2 basically. So first of all, you want to go to our website, which is going to be linked in the description. It's currently hosted at gma2.cherry-treehouse.com. So on our website, you can see there's news on this tab. You can check every time there's been an update we post here. There's an About tab with some information about the various extensions and stuff, and generally what you can expect that has been changed since GameMaker 8.1. In the Source tab, you can find links to our GitHub organization, where we store the source code for all of our extensions and parts of the project, and also our individual repositories where we keep some smaller stuff. And a couple of interesting links like our Discord server and some notable projects using GameMaker 8.2. Alright, so you want to download the setup wizard. It's hosted on Mediafire, so we know how that goes. Alright, it's downloading. Alright, now let's install GameMaker 8.2. So, we want to run the setup as administrator to get the file associations. If you don't have an administrator, it should work anyway. So on your first time around, you want to check every box so you get everything installed correctly. If you're updating, you don't have to do that. So anyway, let's install to the default directory, and there we go. There's the documentation. We have some examples and stuff. And there we go. So every time we push an update, we post news to our website on this page. You can find all the updates here. You can check here, or you can also check our Discord server. We have a link to the Discord on the video description. And every time there's an update, you'll have to re-download the setup wizard and run it again, but just click next and stuff and it'll install the updates. So anyway, so how to get started with GameMaker 8.2. So you can find GameMaker 8.2 on your start menu. All of the different tools are also listed here, and there's also a link to the documentation folder and stuff. So let's get started. First of all, I would recommend setting up your Windows Defender to make testing faster, because every time you hit test in GameMaker, it creates an exe in your temp folder. And Windows Defender really doesn't like that, and it has a tendency to take like several seconds for it to finish compiling and running the game. So I'm going to be showing you how to set up Windows Defender to fix that problem. So you want to go to Windows Security, Virus and Threat Protection. It'll open a different thing. You go to Virus Settings. Down here there's Exclusions. And then you want to add particularly your temp folder and the GameMaker 8.2 folders. So you add the GameMaker folder, and you add your temp folder, and that will prevent the Windows Defender from locking up your exes as you're testing the game. And you'll notice this is a lot faster. So if you can't do that, don't worry, you'll just have to wait a little longer every time you test. It's not mandatory. So in order to get all the 8.2 features, you need to save your project as a GMA2 file. So we're going to be saving it. You select it down here, and we're going to be creating a test project. Now, here's a recommendation. If you have any cloud backup providers like OneDrive or Dropbox, you want to avoid putting your project folder in one of those cloud providers folders, because an 8.2 project is a lot of small files, and cloud providers tend to create problems when loading or saving that many small files in quick succession. So if you have OneDrive, put your files in a folder that isn't backed up to OneDrive. Don't put your folder in Dropbox. If you need to back up your source, you can use GitHub and stuff, and you can use like just local Git repositories to manage your source. So anyway, I'm going to create a test project in my documents folder, And you will notice that you have these like the full asset types. And later videos will be explaining what the other types do. So anyway, first thing you want to do is create a room, and we're just going to use the default name. And you'll notice that immediately if you run that, you get a gray screen. This is because you don't have to worry about initializing anything in GameMaker. Most of the work is done for you, so you can focus on actually making the game. All right, so let's add some asset types. Here are my documents. I have some default assets that I'm going to be using to demonstrate how to use them. So first of all, let's add like a sprite. Okay, so here's our sprite. I'm going to get rid of the background so it's transparent. Here's our little clown. So GameMaker collision is interesting. By default, the collision is per pixel, which means that empty parts of the sprite do not generate a collision event. You can change all of that. You can change the shape. You can use whatever shape you want. You can change the alpha tolerance when you have alpha collision. And GameMaker also has a basic sprite editor. You can preview animations here. You can generate some built-in animations and stuff. And it has a functional image editor that you can use to edit some simple graphics or make small corrections. But I would recommend using an external editor if you need more than that. Alright, so moving on to the next asset type, we're going to be creating a background. Backgrounds are similar to sprites in the sense that they're textures, but they cannot be animated, and they're just flat graphics that you can use in the room. You can also create tile sets that you can select bits and pieces of and put in your room. We're going to be looking at that in a later video. So for now, I'm just going to add the final asset type, which is a sound. So GameMaker has a primitive sound engine, and you can change the type. Sound effects can be played multiple at a time. Background music, you can only have one playing at a time. Don't worry about these two, they're advanced stuff. We're going to be talking about it later. There are some basic sound effects you can put on sound. Okay, moving on. So the way that GameMaker games work is that you have objects, and you put these objects in the rooms, and then these objects run the code that makes the game work. You cannot have a game without objects. So we're going to be creating a clone object. I recommend always giving your objects a capital name, just for consistency. You know, so like you can have, for example, you can have room stage, or you can have BG carpet and stuff. So you know what each asset is when you're making a game. Like that, just for your own consistency. So we're going to be giving the object a sprite so that it shows up in the room, and you make sure it's visible, because if the object isn't visible, it's not going to be running its draw events. It will still be there, it will run every other event, but it won't be visible. And the way that objects run code is that they have events, and GameMaker has quite a few types of events to pick from. But the most important ones, which are the ones we're going to be looking at today, are create, step, and some mouse events, because we want to make a mouse game. So we're going to be adding a create event, which is one of the most important events you can have on an object, because you're going to be using this event to initialize instances of this object. Because in GameMaker, objects are more like templates or stamps out of which you create instances. So an object can generate an infinite amount of instances of itself, and each one of them is going to be completely individual. So for example, we're going to make our clown jump to a random position whenever it's created, which makes the game a little bit more interesting. So let's just pop that in, and that's good enough. Now we're going to be looking at the new room editor, which is accessible when you use the GMA2 project format. Also remember to save often. So you click on your room and it's going to open the editor in a different window. Okay, so this is the new GameMaker 8.2 room editor. It's been designed from the ground up and it has a lot of new features compared to the GameMaker 8.1 default room editor. So first of all, in the settings tab, you can change the caption of your room. This changes what shows up on the window caption when your game is in this room. And GameMaker rooms are basically like levels of your game. When you change to a different room, you're changing the level. It's a completely different space. So let's call it Clown Game. And here you can change some default settings. You can change the size. You can change the FPS speed. The game is going to be trying to do this FPS speed. This is known as the room speed. Okay, so on the Instances tab, you can select an object and then place multiple instances of that object in the room. And one of the new features in the 8.2 room editor is that you can scale and you can rotate things, and you can also change their color if you want. And alright, so let's test that out. If we go back to our game and try it out, you will see that our clowns have jumped to random positions. And that's because of their create event, which tells them to jump to a random position. Alright. So now, let's add another example event. So we're going to be adding a left pressed event. This event fires whenever you click on the sprite of an object. So we're just going to have our clown, again, jump to a random position and play a sound. So we're going to be playing the gunshot sound. Alright, let's test our game. You can see that when I click on them, they jump to a random position. And you'll notice I cannot click on the holes in the sprite, because GameMaker is one of the few engines that support precise pixel collision. The moment I click on an actual pixel in the sprite, it works. Okay. Now let's make our room a little prettier. You can have backgrounds in your rooms. You can have up to 8 backgrounds listed 0 through 7. And you can have a background color that just draws behind the backgrounds. So we're just going to be selecting the carpet background, and you'll see that it automatically tiles to fit the room. And that's good enough for now. You can change the position of it. You can change the scale. You can change the color and stuff. It's all up to you. Okay. Okay, so the next event I want to explain briefly in this video is the step event. Step is how GameMaker calls its frames, and this is how you can have persistent code that is checking and doing stuff in the game. So in this example, I'm going to be doing something really simple. I'm going to have this action that makes the clown chase the mouse cursor. And you'll see that when I run the game, now they all chase the mouse cursor every frame, so it looks like they're just seeking missiles and stuff. Click on them. Alright, and that's the basics of how to get started using GameMaker 8.2. So when you're getting started with GameMaker, your best point of reference would be the built-in manual. You can check all of the different parts of GameMaker over here. You can check how to use certain things. You can look in the index tab if you're looking for a specific thing. And you can also use this panel on the right, where we have these mini reference thingies you can check. You can search here, so you can find things and like that. If you need specific help with something, you can also ask in our Discord. We have a lot of people in the Discord that are willing to help people getting started and stuff, and you can just ask in there if you need specifics. But most importantly, the easiest way to learn GameMaker is by doing. You just open a random thing and you check out all the different things that it can do, and you try them out and you see how they work, and that's how you learn how to use them. I'm going to be making some specific videos on specific features to help people get started, but also to explain some of the more advanced concepts that you can use GameMaker 8.2 for, like the extensions and stuff. That's going to come at a later date. Now I'm going to explain how to create an exe of your game. You can hit this button or you can go here and you can create an executable of your game. Let's just put it on the desktop for now. So let's call it clown game. And you will notice that it's just one file. GameMaker games do not have dependencies. They do not need anything to run. They just work. You'll see that if I click on there, we get the exact same thing we had in the test, but it's just a separate exe, a couple of megabytes. And that's about it. Just remember that GameMaker is a 2D toolkit. It's very good for making top-down games. It's okay for doing like platformers and stuff with Gravity. It's a little bit more involved. There's more code that you need to be aware of when you're making a platformer. But other than that, GameMaker is very good for making 2D games. It has 3D capabilities, and we have a couple of extensions to help using that. But it is not meant for 3D. You need to put a lot more effort into making 3D graphics for your games, but it is possible. So if you burn out while working on a project, it's important to note that like the easiest way to fix that is just by starting a new project and just doing something else, because that's how you get experience using the program. You just keep doing different things until you learn how everything works, and then you can put all of that into the same project and get something amazing out. So yeah, that's about all that I wanted to talk about for this first video, and until next time.